true? I'm here. Hey, y'all, we're gonna start in about 10 minutes, so 10 more minutes. So take your time, get some chips, water, soda, do what you do. Thanks.
Testing. Mr. DJ, it's time for us to get started. Hello, everyone. We're a little late, but we want to try to get as many people in here as we possibly could. I'd like for everyone, if you can, to move forward into the first circle, since we're kind of few so far. If that's okay, if you feel comfortable doing that, it just brings a little bit more of closeness in. So hello, I'm Kathy Knights. I'm a longtime resident of Van Venner. Bought my house when I was a young chicken and could still walk 40 years ago. So yeah, and worked on the first North Central plan, 20 years ago. Some of us are still around, and that's a good thing because we're gonna see this to fruition this time. And this is our first assembly for the North Central Plan. And first, I want to acknowledge the planning team, which was made up of our neighbors, some of whom worked on the first North Central Plan and are still around, and many others that worked on the plan, the most recent one, which started in 2019. And those people are detailed in the executive summary that you have. We want to thank the Deaconess Foundation. So appreciated partner in this process. And we're so grateful for these young people that have partnered with us from the Freedom Arts Education Community Center. Thank you, and welcome. We are finished with the North Central Plan. Now we want to see the plan implemented. And we want to do so with our values and input. So that's why we're having, the community come together and join us. Our goal today is to be clear on our goals and to, get commitments on how we plan to get things done. This work will be long-term. It won't just be this one event. It won't just be a meeting a couple months from now. It's long-term, 5, 10, even 20 years down the road. We'll still be working on this plan. So thank you so much. I'm, happy to see 2 people turn out. As they say, it doesn't take a whole room full of folks to do a thing. It just takes people to be dedicated to do that thing. So right now I'd like to introduce Mr. Tyshawn from Freedom Arts, and you have the floor.
How y'all doing? I'm Tyshawn from Freedom Arts Education Center. And today I'll be reciting an original poem. It's called Where I'm From. I wrote it back in 2020. I am from gunpowder in the morning. I inhale going to school. I am from vacancies, low property value, no homes, we're poor. Watching the streets on how to get rich, lost kids, no parks, no sports. We live in hell, but we're heaven sent. Devilish peasants killing for the heck of it. I am from melanin that sparks jealousy. I am free truth behind the lies they sell me. I am from wisdom that runs as deep as roots on a tree. Hanging ancestors, no chance to be free. Neck and neck with police, I can't breathe. Start riots for justice and equal rights, because it doesn't help when we say please. Freeze, young man, what the gun for? It's not because I'm a gangster, but because I value my life more. Uproar, don't make me start nothing. If feelings make me less of a man, then I'm not one. Get back, click, clack, boom, I fear for my life too. But what gives you the right to take another's life because he didn't look like you? Political changes and a lot more black presidents. Finally, suburb living, we aren't robbing it, we're residents. Police work for the people and not the oppressing terrorists. Everyone's equal, that thing we call racism is irrelevant. Thank you.
Hello, welcome at the stand. We appreciate everybody being here. My name is Audrey Ellerman. I am co-chair of the committee for the North Central Plan. This is,
Good afternoon. I'm Angie, and I'm the owner of the Place Enrichment Center right here in our neighborhood. Welcome.
so we want to change that narrative. We want to start by reading the community vision statement. We want a whole, healthy, and vibrant community comprised of distinct neighborhoods, housing, cultural and religious and educational amenities. The North Central will be a well-maintained, safe, and inclusive home for all residents, businesses, and institutions.
Centrally located and well-connected to all areas of the city and region, residents of North Central will have physical and organizational access to jobs, education, healthcare facilities, businesses, and other key amenities to ensure an excellent quality of life.
It was led by the people who call North Central home. The community will provide equal support, assist residents and stakeholders to thrive and chart their own future, this generation and the next. So we want to talk a little bit about some guidelines for today. First of all, we want to respect each other's opinions. Do not assume ill intent.
Make room for people to be themselves. Allow everyone to give input at this meeting.
Follow the agenda, please. This is only the first conversation. Do not feel rushed. If there's any other guidelines or things you want us to follow, please feel free, anyone, to come up and write them on the board.
Or
Have a
I will
few
write them
minutes.
for you.
Okay, yeah, she's a good teacher. My handwriting's terrible.
And remember, we want to be able to express our opinions and our ideas. This is open for everybody. We need everybody's input.
Any more thoughts? I can bring the mic over.
Any ideas? Any additional guidelines for our talks?
Nothing else is needed.
Have we addressed everything?
Well, okay.
All right.
Let's give everybody a round of applause for just showing up. Thank you. So I would like to now call David Narrett Flores, our director. So pick up my papers.
Good afternoon. I'm David Narrett Flores. I'm the director of the Deaconess Center here for this and the host for this conversation today. So want to appreciate you all showing up, being present, and really excited about this conversation. I'm going to invite some experts up and community with us to really talk about centering of where we are. We know this vision statement. We know where we want to go and priorities, and let's really have this first kind of set of conversation on what are the challenges of facing that. So I'm going to ask Judith, Michael, and Alexa, are you out of here? Yes, come on up. I'm going to pull microphones on this. Okay, does this still work? All right, great. Hey, so we want to have a conversation specifically about providing context to the North Central Plan. So everyone has a copy of the executive summary for the plan. Folks have worked on this for a number of years in this. And we also want to take time today in thinking about naming the systems and the structures that are going to be challenges to seeing that document in your hands become a reality, right? And so no better yet to speak about that than folks that have a representative here in this, but we also want to know that we're not the only ones that can identify challenges. You all know the challenges as well, and we want to express that and capture that as in place. So before I speak and introduce the panel and also have this conversation, I'm gonna ask Tyshawn to come up and talk to us about your all's role during this panel.
Okay, so we have a nice big board in the corner here, and as the panel, continues on, we like you guys to come up and write down challenges in your community environment. And I want to encourage you guys to get creative with it. Like, if you think vacant homes are a problem in your community, draw a vacant building or get creative. We inspire you to get real creative.
Great. So we're getting a challenge board. Aside on that, there are paint markers that you all are welcome to grab and move forward on. So excited about that as that open invitation for you all to start on this. So again, give introduction. I want to run through for each of you all to kind of give a conversation, introduction of who you are, what is your connection to this neighborhood and this work. And then I'll also start with this prompt that we think. So we completed the North Central Plan and got the plan approved by the Planning Division and as a topical plan in August of 2021. This was done after 8 months of long, deep community-led work with residents, stakeholders, and stakeholders. Many in this room, many of you have been a part of this, leading your voices on this. We also want to note that all of that work during that time was done during some of the darkest parts of this health pandemic, during social unrest after the murder of George Floyd, and underpinned by the fact that many of you all who did this work have done this before back in 2000 with the original North Central Plan and never saw that plan come to fruition as expected within that. We also know that we have ongoing demonstrated energy and commitment to seeing this new plan become a reality. But we also are still in a health pandemic, right? I'm still asking you to wear masks on here, and we're still concerned about our families and friends. On that, we are now realizing a new realization of economic uncertainty here locally, as well as on the national, federal level. I will also note that we are in a political turmoil on cases from coming down from federal level on policies that we're seeing attacks on our communities left and right. We are also seeing localized political scandals and trouble around how is community development happening, how is it being transparent, and what is the leadership that we have. And we also have clear community burnout, right? We are not all getting younger at any point on this. So with that rosy picture, you're welcome. So giving an introduction to yourselves, who you are, what is in your consideration do you see as the biggest challenge facing this footprint, the North Central Plan footprint, and making the plan a reality? And how does those challenges fit into the historical context that we've seen of other community efforts? Judith, I'm going to go to you first. You're welcome.
Yeah. And okay. My name is Judith Arnold, and I am an urban planner. Do not work for the city of St. Louis. I am in private practice. I'm fortunate enough to be housed at St. Louis Association of Community Organizations. I've been a planner starting my career back 30 years ago. I've worked in different aspects of planning. I've done land use planning, meaning with responsibility of rehabbing buildings. One of the buildings in this area that I was responsible for was getting a Urban Development Action Grant, UDAG, the very first in the city of St. Louis. A result of that UDAG grant is the 2 buildings that are on the corner of Sarah and Enright, and then another 50 buildings, various scattered throughout Enright, going all the way over to Walton. So I've been in the trenches for a long time. Starting my career here with Union Sarah Economic Development, I worked directly under the arm of Donald Spade, who was the executive director for the City Planning Commission. And he taught me how to put the paperwork together for these federal grants. So some people call me an expert. I call myself tired. I'm going to just kind of bring it current now. I raised funding for one of the largest not-for-profit organizations in the state of Missouri, millions of dollars. So I know how to do it, public and private. Currently, I served as the planner for the Hodemont Greenway design. Worked on that for 12 months. And now we are refining that plan, costing out the plan. And what I told people the other day in a gathering, it's about time we start construction on that plan. And I was told we will, we are. And so it's coming within the next 18 months, we will be starting construction on that plan. I'm a believer in working in partnerships with other organizations to get things done. So probably my biggest challenge that I would state today is that we have a tendency to work in silos. We work alone and not in collaboration with others. That's going to get you nowhere fast. It's going to burn you out. There are other groups that might do some of the things that is associated with the plan and want to be involved, but they never get asked. One of the biggest silos, and I'm getting ready to stick my neck out here, and that is these block units. Supposedly building 1 block at a time, which have turned into little clubs, powerless clubs. I mean, it gives you a social outlet, but it can frustrate you when you actually want to get some work done. I could rattle off the partnerships of the Greenway, but it's too numerous. I could rattle off all the activities that are associated with the Greenway, but it's too numerous. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things, but I will tell you one of the things that we just completed was the building of 10 little libraries that will go along the tracks. The partnership that we were able to build is with the 7 neighborhoods going east to west. And that's unprecedented for neighborhoods north of Del Mar. We are lock, stock, and barrel with what everybody else is doing in those neighborhoods. Now, I'm not telling people what to do in their neighborhood. They do it and I support it. And whatever we do over here, they support. We are one. We call ourselves 7 together. Those neighborhoods going east to west include Covenant Blue, Vanderventor, Fountain Park, Lewis Place, Academy, West End, and Visitation Park. They're having a cleanup today over in Fountain Park. I think it's Fountain Park. I'm not there, I'm here. I'm tired of cleaning up anyway. So when I talk about the need for partnerships as being a challenge, this is real. There's one group of institutions we never ask. That's churches. The churches have members, the churches have money, the churches have influence, and the churches have respect, but we don't bring them along. And they're just waiting to be asked. I don't know why we don't do it. So we need to look around at those programs and groups of people to include in the implementation of what it is we're doing. Another challenge is neighborhood associations don't know how to get money. They don't know how to go after it. And then once they get it, they don't know how to use it. There could be money that's given to a neighborhood and there's 6 or 7 different neighborhood associations and they're all fighting over the table over the same amount of money, which makes no sense. I first came to St. Louis, Model Cities was like our ARPA money, supposed to be dedicated to one neighborhood. At least when I was up in Kansas City, that's what they told me it was supposed to be dedicated to Jeff Vanderloo neighborhood. I came to St. Louis, there were 3 neighborhoods in the middle of it. They spent all the money. The areas still look bombed out. The folks that live over there want more money. And I'm going, well, didn't we just give you some back in what did you do with it? They spent the money and it was supposed, the people who lived in the neighborhood were supposed to have the jobs to create this revitalization. Well, number one, they didn't know what they were doing. They thought they did, but they really didn't. They had access to City Hall, great, but they still didn't know what they were doing.
Judith, noting in terms of around how are we breaking out these silos and then also giving the resource challenges of resources for neighborhoods. I want to get Michael in this on from being in the neighborhood and a newer view of the neighborhood as well. Can you give an introduction as well as what are you seeing as challenges?
Can I finish up? Let me just finish up and I'll be real quick.
You want?
I will be really quick. And then they moved out of the neighborhood, so they're no longer there. Go ahead, Michael.
There it is.
I'm Michael Von Gebel. I'm on the Van Ventura CDC. I'm also on the planning committee for the North Central Plan. I work under Judith's leadership on the Odomont Tracks Greenway project. Just got done, what was it, a week ago? 270 square feet of grass and brush and everything in this hot weather by myself. Did get some relief the third day. John came in and worked with us for 3 hours on it. Newly moved back to the city. We used to live in Benton Park West. We left, and then we decided to give the city a second chance, and we bought a house on Page Boulevard. So my husband and I of 23 years have moved back to the city in our old age. So it's not just for young people. I have a tendency to be very blunt about what the problems are that we face. First of all, we're coming out of the pandemic. We have a forestry department, a refuse department, who I've been in contact with Director Jankowski. They can't get the bodies behind the tractors to mow the grass. We had a really serious problem right up on Page Boulevard. I sent him an email. He yanked somebody off of a job and sent them up there to get it done. And the guy said, this never happens where I'm pulled off a job to come up here and take care of something. So he's doing his best effort to be responsive. He can't get the people. Then if now with rising fuel costs, he's going to have to cut into that hiring budget to pay for the fuel. It might be nice that if we stop treating St. Louis as 2 separate cities, we're not St. Paul, Minneapolis, we're St. Louis. Build a hub for the street and forestry department in the north end where all the work needs to be done, instead of having the men, like I saw one yesterday, driving the tractor through the city to someplace else. Have it already there. That way he doesn't have to waste time driving and he can spend more of it mowing. This isn't this isn't complex, it's common sense. Another thing is we need to increase our tax base instead of taxing everybody to death. How do you do that? You have to attract business to your community. The problem is we're in uncertain economic times right now. We don't know whether we're facing a recession or we're fighting inflation, or we're doing both at the same time. But 75% of new businesses fail in the first 2 years in good economic conditions. We're not in good economic conditions. And so we have to work to find ways to basically introduce capitalism to some socialism and give them a helping hand to locate in areas north of Del Mar. Now, that brings me down to the final piece of what the problem is. It's our own apathy. You people care because you made time out of your day to show up. But how many people do we know in our neighborhood? I know Miss Carter and I spent a good half hour each picking up their trash out of our yard and our street. I'm not their parent, because I wouldn't have raised my children to grow up and throw trash in other people's yards and their streets. Mow your yard. You know, you think of your neighborhood or your street as your home. You don't invite company over to your house if it's not safe. And you don't invite people over to your house before you've cleaned it. And so how can we expect, and the challenge is, to want to have people locate in our neighborhoods looking the way they look? If we don't care, why should we expect them to? And that's a challenge that we face. We could have moved anywhere we wanted to move and bought a house. I liked the house, I liked the neighborhood. And to the irony of some people, and I'm not going to get into the details, I moved into this neighborhood that I live in so I can feel safe. Because I've got my own social enemies after me. So I'm going to go where I know people understand what that's like.
But so I appreciate this is looking at continue around noting around like resources. What are the resources that are at the city level, the resources at the individual level, to make sure that we're hitting our needs and getting our needs met. And also this, I appreciate talking about the economic uncertainty, right? Of how are we may not know what's on the horizon, but how are we getting ready so that we, being prepared so and be ready so we don't have to get ready, right? In that and doing that as a collective. Alexa, I'm gonna get to you in this and then get to our next question on that. Yeah, please.
Hello. Okay, this work. Hi, everyone. So my name is Alexa Seva, and I work with the City of St. Louis Planning and Urban Design Agency. And how I'm involved with this plan is last year when it was adopted, I was there to kind of facilitate and help guide the conversation about some of the goals and recommendations that are in the plan with our city agencies and make sure that this plan actually passed and that our departments were aware of it, making sure that the Planning Commission was aware of it and all that stuff in terms of that coordination piece. That's really what we do. And also I'm a neighborhood planner, and that's our role. And that's where I'm gonna get into about how it's a little bit frustrating. I believe one of the challenges is that the city is behind. The communities have the momentum, but it's been years of historical harm and then years of being told that we're gonna get something done, we're gonna do this. And everyone in this room, you're here today, but what if the city can't meet your demands in the next year or two? It's going to lead to burnout. But also what I would know is another challenge is just the city's gumption. As Michael has identified, we have limitations. We don't have the bodies to be behind the seats. We have a hiring issue in the personnel department. There's only 2 of me in our office. There's supposed to be 8. We had the allocated funding for 8, but because of our system and how it works, people have moved on. They applied for the position, but they never got called. Then they do get called and they're like, hey, I found a job in California. They weren't able to stay. We weren't able to retain that talent. And so I think one of the biggest challenges is just being able to, and I think they kind of are interconnected, is one, it's your momentum. You guys are all here and are ready to make the moves. It's just on our end at times, it's like, what are our priorities? As a city, we can't always just kind of like focus on one neighborhood per se. we are tasked with trying to meet the demands of everyone. But then that gets into kind of an issue of equity. We know on the north side that for a long time it has been disinvested in. And so you would think that the city would spend more time and their resources trying to bring it up. But then you have a question of like who has voice and who has power and who's able to kind of sway and get city members to kind of work for them. So I believe those are some of the challenges. And I think what needs to really happen is just this alignment of departments with neighborhood planning. And so that we don't lose the momentum is how I would sort of wrap it up. Because I'm excited to be here with y'all, but even in my day-to-day task and all the things that I'm given, we are supposed to have an urban planner too, who focuses on some of the menial tasks, but I have to pick those things up because we don't have that person in the office to do it. And so I would love to just focus on what we're supposed to be focusing on, but then I think that happens in all our departments. We believe we're there to do something, but we end up wearing a million hats. So we might lead to burnout at the city as well. And we also have to remember that we're at the city also residents. So I think we're just kind of trying to balance our roles and also being residents as well and how that affects our neighborhoods.
So that's how about the 2 out of 8? That's a like in your office. That's a huge like understanding and like a reality of that. This momentum and the catching up, right? Then and so how are we looking at acknowledging that? So thank you for acknowledging that of where we're at, acknowledging this challenges on this. For time, I also want to like encourage you all. You still have like you still have art to do, still have journaling to do. So feel free to add on to the challenges. In that, I'm gonna jump to 3 team. Specifically because we talked about a little bit about this footprint as well as the larger picture for the community and the landscape. What are the, and we also know that we're aware that there's stuff that we don't know everything, right? And we're still unaware. We talked about kind of what else is out there in terms of economics components, but around community accountability and governance, which we're trying to build here in a system of a new system of how does this body, how does this room, this community hold the accountability for this plan and also keep the momentum and keep it for all partners. I want to ask for you all, what are questions or areas in this work that you would like to have answered that would give you more clarity about the challenges? What's something that you're saying, I have no idea about this, how this happens, or this would bring a specific challenge into focus for me in this footprint that you want us to start thinking about as we look at solutions. How do we speak that into the room? Yeah, look, we are a collective here, right? And I got it. I'll get it. We'll get it later. And so I think that we are only 4 voices, right? With the rest of these 30 voices here. What is something that we're saying, hey, I really need to know this about this footprint and about putting out these priorities, that if I knew that, I know that we could overcome this better, right? So if I really need to know what Judith is doing next month, because that's going to align my partnerships a lot better, right? I know what little libraries she's going to pop up, because if you guys haven't seen them, they're amazing. They're all down in, right? So what is that answer that would provide more clarity around the challenges for you?
What I really think should happen is that there needs to be some type of central repository in the city of St. Louis that would allow information to flow. There is development, people are speculating and they're developing, and residents don't know anything about it. And most of the time the information they get is incorrect. And so I spend a lot of time doing the research once I get a flag and trying to dispel the myths. And it's not so much we want to approve or we want to disapprove. We just want to know as residents what is happening so that we can align ourselves better. I had to tell a woman who was doing some development that I take people out on bus tours. I take developers and investors out on bus tours through our neighborhood. And I would love to take these people past your new project, but if I don't know it's happening, I can't do it. And not only to sell her project, but to sell the neighborhood.
Michael, or you want more time?
So something that I want to know is I'm going to speak on one, working for the city, then also in my neighborhood. I live on the south side and I am part of the Development Review Committee for the Gravois Jefferson Historic Neighborhoods Plan. And so speaking as a resident, it is so difficult to even understand what is going on in terms of development in the community. And I feel like the only reason why I'm aware of stuff and I'm always sharing it with my fellow Development Review Committee members is because I work for the city. So I'm able to sort of understand the tools and all these things and how they kind of like operate. But even in my role, sometimes I hit roadblocks or I'm at an impasse. Like, I'm like, who's doing what? Who's doing this? Like in our planning department, we do not review everything. The only things that we review are one, neighborhood plans, any changes to our land use. So if something's recreational and a community wants to change it into a commercial district, that's something that we would work on. And then anything that requires a rezoning or a tax abatement. And so a lot of folks sometimes think that we see it all, but we do not. And also the way things are displayed online and agendas and things like that, they're not always the most intuitive on how to read them. And then also not every meeting's recorded, so you don't always know the outcome of something. So something that we have been working at in our office, and of course we're small, is sort of digitizing these things, even though there may not be in our purview to review. We just want to know ourselves in our planning department, what's going on, what's getting the variance, how do we categorize that and put them into the neighborhood so that we can personally reach out to our connections and say, hey, did you know that this is going on? Like I've been able to say, hey, Judith, this is a variance that came across my desk that I saw that was happening in the Van de Venner neighborhood. You want to check it out. And so something that I would like to know, and something that I've been writing to the mayor about in email, since there's the employee feedback line, is how do we standardize what can be our system or a policy in place that makes sure that there is public accountability, that we're able to see everything that is going on, that it's not just in all these different web pages on the city's website, but that is so transparent, like a neighborhood dashboard. They could literally go in and click on it and see everything that's happening in your neighborhood, from tax abatement, zonings, variances, and then clearly understanding what that even means. Because I'm still learning all about zoning. Our zoning department is not in the same as planning. And in most cities, planning and zoning go together. In ours, it's separated. And so I normally have to call the zoning office, say, hey, how do I break this down? How do I understand this? So again, getting to Judith's point earlier, we operate in silos at the city. And it's taken me a lot of work, and I've been with planning for now 2 years to still understand everything that we're doing in our building division and streets. I don't understand what's going on in streets. That's somebody else's role in our office. But I think holistically, I think all of our planners should be aware and understand all of these systems, because we are here to guide you on your neighborhood plan and all those efforts. But it also takes us a lot of work to understand it all, put into processes, break it down. So something that internally I would just share with you that we're doing is just how to break it down, because what our department's kind of young now. We did hire a couple of folks, my colleague and then a graphic designer. We want to make the information translational. But then we might want to do that, but we might be stepping on department's toes because we decided to kind of take it upon ourselves to understand the system. So for me, what I would like to understand is who needs to enact something. Is it all our department heads and directors, or does it need to come from the mayor's office? Does the board of aldermen need to push this forward in order to just make development more transparent.
Or do you need 30+ letters written in today, right, to get it on that? I'm gonna give to Michael and then we'll on the question.
I finally got it. Thanks. I'm going to go down to a more grassroots level. One of the best first ladies of my lifetime said that the office of the president doesn't make the man, it reveals who he is. I call on you. What I want to know is what can you do to reveal the best of your person in your neighborhood? What can you do there? This is a war. It's block by block, house by house, alley by alley. We started in our neighborhood. Now other people are fixing their places up, getting out there, scraping the paint, mowing the lawn more regularly, picking up trash in front of their yard. What can you do? That's what I want to know. In your own particular neighborhood or just on your street or the 4 or 5 neighbors of you on the end. Is there an old person who used to keep their yard up, but gotten too old to do it now, money's tight or whatever? Lend a hand. That's what a neighborhood is about. You talk to one another. You share information with one another. I'm so much trouble. I've got 3 women across the different committees I'm on that have to keep me in line and keep me busy to keep me out of trouble. And they do a good job of it. My health is in decline, but I stopped a long time ago making excuses for the failure and put the energy into work and solutions. It's nothing more gratifying than to do what I did over where the new Hodemont Tracks mural is going to be. I knew what it looked like the first day I went out to scope it out. I said to Tashara, I said, do you see any retaining wall around here? It was so obscured you couldn't even see it, and it's taller than I am. But now you see it. My health's in decline, but I got out and did it because all I needed was a ventilator or my Ventolin, a bottle of water, and God's grace.
And a vision, and a vision for it.
So I ask you what you can do for yourselves in your own neighborhood to help out.
Cut to you. Oh, we grabbed them.
Alexis said that planning and zoning go together.
Mm.
Well, planning and public policy goes together as well.
Yeah.
Our neighborhoods are changing. They have been changing over the years. We now have a large number of senior homeowners. And so there is tax relief that is needed for them so they can stay in their homes as long as they can. Because if they were to leave, our neighborhoods would look like a ghost town. And there was some state legislation that was introduced in the last session to reduce the taxes of senior homeowners. Senate passed it, House did not. So we're going to put it back out there again, and we're hoping that there'll be more support in the next session.
Great. So I want to give thank you to this panel on that. I also know we all have more thoughts and challenges of our own. We're also going to take this time to switch to have, as Michael called us out, really have this conversation around solutions and what are we going to be thinking about in making this a reality. So Audrey and Andrea, I'm calling you back up there. So thank you all.
Okay, we're getting ready to come to the fun part. We're going to come up with some ideas, solutions. So what we would like, even though we have a small group, to break out in maybe groups of 5, 3 to 5. We need a note taker and a facilitator. And the note taker is the one that's going to report back to the group. So we know the challenges. We've been discussing it, and you don't have to really reinvent the wheel, because when you look around, you'll see the goals and the visions we have. So you can do a little cheat sheet, look and see what you think the most challenges are and what you feel your best solutions, or the solutions that we all can work on. Please stay true to the community vision statement. Our community vision statement, a whole healthy and vibrant community. So this is what we want to really keep in mind when we start working on some solutions. So now we need to have our supplies. Who is going to give us the supplies?
Audrey, if I may speak,
Sorry.
this young man here, sir, come up. Did you all hear his point? If you didn't, I hope that he will have a chance to express that and cite that poem again. What you spoke comes from where? It came, say it again.
The heart.
It comes from his heart. If you were here and you heard his poem, this is what he feels deep down in his heart. And you can imagine there are a lot of our young people who feel the same way. And the question is, do we want to continue these negative feelings? Some were positive. Do we want that for all of our children, grandchildren? Or do we want that poem to change a little bit with a different flavor? Thank you, sir. I was so impressed, and it touched my heart what he was saying, because this is what he feels. Do we want this to continue? That's why it's important for us to come up with the vision, solutions, and the outcomes of our neighborhoods. We have to change this.
I think we have still 45 minutes. Timekeeper, what time is it?
I'll do it.
What time is it now? It's 2
Yes,
o'clock?
we're at 2:45.
Okay, we have to 2:45. So let's get started.
Groups of 5. Okay, let's start over here. We have 3 here. We need 2 more people over here in this group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, maybe. Okay. 5, right here. This is our another 5. You want to come up here? 1, 2, 3. We need 2 people here for 5. 3. Okay, so you are 3 here? You got 4? We need. Can you be a 5th right here? Yeah. Thank you. So we need 3 people here. Well, you know what? You all do your 3. You know what? Would you all, you're in this group? Okay. So we still need 2 people then. You know what? Let's do that. You are over here, and you can be right over here. You want to be over here? It could be more than 5. You're fine. You're fine right here.
During this time, welcome to go do so.
Okay.
If they want.
As you all are coming up with your visions, don't forget our board over here, where you can go and draw your solutions. You can go right over here, share your ideas with the board. You all need a, who's the note taker over here? You are? You don't have to speak, you just ask somebody to speak, for you. Or do you all need a big pad and markers over here? Can we get one of these? Can we use these? And we need markers. Storage. Let's get some markers. Oh, we got the wrong one?
I'll note we have 15 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, make sure you have a note taker that's going to reply back, report back, 15 minutes. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna cut you all off for conversation. We're gonna keep on have this. So I see I just see a bunch of whiteboards. So we're gonna flip these whiteboards around a little. Somebody's still writing on. Oh, are you writing? Oh. I'll wait till Jen's done. Oh, we're bringing it all up. This is best. Here, Judith will. Yeah. Jen, you ready? I'm missing one more board. Audrey, do you want to bring yours over? Okay. Look at all these solutions. This is great. So we'll start. Jen, you want to come back up? I know I called you out. All right, so we're gonna run through these. Andrew's gonna help to capture some big ideas within this. We'll go from here. Oh, sorry, I'm coming. This
No,
over
it's
here.
okay. It's okay.
All right, so will you run through?
Okay.
Um,
All right. So hopefully I'm captured what the point was on each of these notes, but there's an economic justice development plan that's just now happened in the city. And so involving that, I think is the point on that one. We need to have community inclusion, including all ages, because the old folks are gonna not be able to carry the weight of the load by themselves. We need politician participation in all levels. We need funding in the right places. So we need to make decisions about where we're going to put money in the development. We need to be a community voice for budget priorities at the government levels that wield some of that money. We had an idea to have a kind of a land bank community partnership program to take care of vacant lots. We had community involvement in local government. So that'll really help us continue the momentum and get help from government entities. We want to connect social organizations with neighborhood organizations. So I think there's probably have two notes that are like this, where social betterment organizations, nonprofits, and the neighborhood organizations to kind of amplify our voice, and also help us build our organization that we're going to need to kind of develop our priorities and implement our priorities. Okay, that's kind of what I just said. Yeah, partner with small community organizations, also partner and communicate with the larger organizations in the area and what their development and community plans are. Because a lot of these organizations, these bigger organizations, have plans that we don't really know about, and they're going to affect our neighborhood. And we want to be aware, and we want to partner when we can, and we want them to partner with us and them to give us money probably. And then we overall want to take an equity approach to partnership and solutions.
let's give Jen a round of applause. Thank you. We're gonna wheel this out.
Some of the solutions that we came up with in our group was holding landlords accountable or reinforcing the laws for landlords, you know, to maintain their property, not just lots, but their property. Another thing that solution that we had was the mowing of the lawn, scheduling a date, you know, because as we know, there's a lot of overgrown weeds in a lot of the lots in our community. Another thing, having organizations, for example, SLU is in our neighborhood, having them, you know, they have, maintenance, their own maintenances. So, you know, having them to, or collaborating with them to help us out. Yeah. Another solution that we came up with also was having a community warehouse where we can, you know, have our own lawnmowers to, you know, more these vacant lots because of, yeah, so again, as I stated, you know, we have these issues with overgrown weeds. So I think this would actually help us out a great deal, and having a place to store them. So that's what the warehouses will give us, storage places. And also taxpayers in the city would like to know where their tax dollars are going because you know, we have a lot of issues, but not they're not being met. Yes. And another thing that was stated by state, helping assist us, you know, with cleanup, because, you know, one person stated they're on the bus stop and people get done with eating, you know, chips or, you know, whatever it is, and they just throw the trash on the ground because there's no trash containers to deposit the trash in. Another thing was safety for our youth. When we were coming up, we had slate jobs for youth where, you know, they kept young people busy throughout the summer. And another thing, keeping our neighborhoods clean. And that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you.
My name is Kina.
Thank you. Thank you, Kina. That's good. Who's the red group? We are. Andy? Feel like Vanna White. Sweepstakes later. Woo! Yes.
We really got busy. We really did. We had some wonderful ideas, and Sarge, he has all, we had to listen to Sarge and express his concerns. We all have our concerns, but we did have to get down to the point. So number one of our visions is communication involving organizations and institutions. We need to gather our institutions and organizations and all work for our goals. That's very important because they are a part of our communities, right? The solution was what we already have, our North Central plan. That's going to be maybe the central communication part of the plan because we can reach out to so many others. The outcomes, I like the community dashboard. Where information is collected and distributed out for everybody to know, to hear about, to understand. So we do know what's going on in our communities. Support youth, seniors, veterans, and address the needs of the community. All a part of communication, improved communication. Number two, financial institutions need to improve relationships with the communities. One of the solutions is meeting with branch managers, letting them know what we want, what we need. We need same services, we need the same products as other areas get, and we need financial opportunities as well. Number three, accountability of the community. Let me say this right, because this is very important. Accountability in regards to financial institutions on the community's terms. Okay, did you hear me? On the community's terms, because they are in our areas and they need to work with us. Say it again. All right. Inventory of corporation, nonprofit, and business financials, financial institutions and churches. Okay. All together, collectively know who we have in our communities, and information is shared, known, and collected. Number 4, revitalize Grand Avenue. Solutions, we want to clean up, we want to replace nuisance properties, collaborate with the aldermen and city departments, establish stronger community organizations. For the outcome would be beautification. We want to attract people, we want to attract businesses. And number 5, residents interview businesses to approve or deny if they can come in. Solution, residents understand what their responsibilities are in regards to cleaning up. Okay. That ends that for us.
Thank you, Angie. I think we got one more. Steve, Judith.
We took on communication challenges. We said that seniors were limited to access of current information. Many do not have access to electronic equipment and therefore don't receive the information. They're homebound. We want to see more flyers in the doors of people. We want to work with the Vacancy Collaborative in terms of their outreach. We also think that telephone calls may be a way to get the information out. We know that when people are running for office, they have these master lists that they're able to obtain. A lot of that information comes from election boards. And therefore, we should have access to it so that we can call people when we have meetings like this. Church bulletins would be another way to get information out. School bulletins, events have been a good way for, especially the Van Aventer group, to rally people on both sides of Del Mar. I'm leaving this last one for last. We want to develop a contact list of people who live on one master list or a couple master lists that can be used to call on people, mail to people, etc. We want to see public hearing training because many residents don't know how government works, how important those committees are, and how they can interact and make a difference. And we just called out 2 groups that could be instrumental. One would be League of Women Voters. Another one would be Action St. Louis. We want to use more social media by way of text, video, podcast, and then the traditional email and Facebook as a way to reaching people. Let's see. Library could be very instrumental. They have a huge contact list of those library patrons that if we were to bring it to them probably right, they might be willing to send bulletins out from time to time with our information out on it. Tours have been a very special part of why we're even coming together as North Central Plan. There's a lot of interest in this community. We are the hottest community in St. Louis at this point. And the tours were one of the reasons why we're getting the investment. Some of our elected officials do newsletters, e-news. The one with the young lady with her hand up does a very, very good job of that. Every week, I know what's going on in her head. And then there's some other elected officials that do these newsletters as well. And sometimes the information is different. There's additional information. So if we somehow were able to tap those elected officials to make sure they get our information, I'm sure they'll send it out. City Hall notices. A lot of residents don't know that City Hall sends notices out with either information is current or it's old information, doesn't matter, but they do post it. And we want to make sure that residents are able to see those posts. Let's see. We think that door knocking is a good way to reach people, but canvassers probably need to be trained. You know, some of us are a little bit better at it than others, and we get that result. So we want to see more canvassing done in the neighborhood, door to door, nose to nose. Public hearings relatable to North Central Plan, meaning there's public hearings all the time, but a lot of times when we see these public hearings, those pages are like 400 pages, and there's annual reports that are given, 400, 500 pages that nobody wants to read. And what was said was that there's not enough public comment on them. Well, that's because nobody want to read them. It's too much. So if there's a way that we can relate those annual reports to the North Central Plan, then we would be able to comment a little more with a little more succinctness and accuracy. Then this last one, we think community organizations beyond this group of people need to be involved in communication. I volunteered SLACO because I got 10 neighborhood organizers that are coming on board in the next week that could certainly help to develop a communication plan for us and implement that plan, help implement that plan. And when I say help, I mean help. They're not going to do it all because they work for me. And we got other things to do as well. We want to bring in Covenant Blue Neighborhood Association and the Vanderventor Community Development Corporation as key partners in developing a communication plan along with the Deaconess Foundation. We think this is key. We will then be able to point to some things that can help to improve communications. So our challenge was communication.
Right. Thank you, Judith. So that is our 4. Congratulations. Give another round of applause for all of you. Look at all those solutions. So next on the agenda, we're a little ahead on schedule, so we're gonna give the break. But during the break, we're gonna talk, want to have this conversation. Make sure you look at all those solutions, right? Really think of like, what is the details of those solutions? What is something that you miss? If it's a aha moment that you heard from another group, how do we talk about that? And then the next part of this conversation is really about, okay, what is the call out for those solutions? How do we get that done, right? Jobs for youth, how do we come out of this today and say, I'm doing this to get more jobs for youth, right? And what's that concrete steps on that? So start thinking of that. We're gonna regather at 3:15 on that. Thanks. I've also lost a microphone. I'm David Derek Flores. This is the one I emailed. Yeah. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Good. We're excited about the solutions from here. It's some commitments on it. Yeah. Oh, that whole thing. Did you see what Sweetie, the pavilion in there? See that? Get a linear park up in there. What you guys building? All right, we're at step 4. So I'm gonna pull us all together. We got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Yeah, you got it. You're doing great. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Exactly where you're supposed to be. So we're gonna pull us all back on this. Does everyone get the snacks they would need? Stretch. Able to dive into the thoughts on solutions in this. Okay, so as we think, we've talked about these solutions. We talked about these challenges. We talked about the solutions to these challenges, to making our vision statement real. We want to continue to synthesize, continue to break this down in terms of what we've seen and what we heard around this. From accountable politicians, lot and lawn care days, more trash cans, looking at a community dashboard, right? On that master contact list of the community, North Central Plan public hearings, access to that in the process. So what we've done is also in thinking through wanting to try to find themes and concepts on this. So what we built out, can everyone see this on the side? What we built out is thinking about what are tangible things that we can get started on today, right? What is the things that we don't have to wait on that we can do, that we've seen wins in this community already, right? The tangible things. I know where I'm getting my free library books out. The little libraries, those are tangible things. And so in orange, the other components that we have, right, about what is a community shared tool shed, right? That's a tangible thing. That's a community idea. The collaboration on maintenance. What is that on that? Other themes around relationship. We have relationships of improving our communication with each other, not being in these silos, in these silos, connecting orgs and institutions, integration, intergenerational engagement. So how are we making sure that we're having large of youth and elder voices in that? We're talking about we're talking about more community control, right? How are we community holding politicians, holding landlords, holding banks all accountable in our community? How are we doing that here today? How do we do that here next? And then last, money, right? What is the resources that we need, a budget, priorities? Where are our taxes going? Equitable funding, how are we doing that? Making sure that we're seeing this across the board, that as we've talked about, that we have the motivation, we have the energy, so how do we move that forward? As you continue to think through solutions, as you had break, as you've had offline chatter, I want to make sure that we give opportunity for what we missed, right? So if we missed anything, is there something that bubbled, something that sounds offline? We want to give that off also. So I'm going to pull this, and if you don't mind, to this mic so that we can hear everyone. Oh. Sorry, I don't think.
I think businesses need to be where it says holding politicians. Yeah, put businesses in there, because there are businesses that are still in our communities, but what do they contribute back to the community? You know, when new businesses come in, you can do, I think somebody was talking about community agreements or something like that. Maybe you could meet with a business and have a community agreement with them that, hey, you're coming into our neighborhood. What can you help us with? Or how can you help us move our plans forward?
Great. Other things we've missed.
I think one of the most tangible things you can get started on right away is when you get home, call your neighbors up and organize cleanup of your neighborhoods and a regular monthly meeting to keep that work up. That can happen right now.
Know our neighbors. Also call those neighbors, check on them, and then get some brooms out. Anything else? What have we missed? Thoughts that you? I'm going to do. Gonna get my steps in.
The educational institutions in our community to develop a partnership with their community resources.
So can we also put them in relationship with institutions? I also think if I extend this, keeping them accountable as well. So SLU, Harris Stowe, Rankin, they're all in our footprint. How do we also keep them? WashU, yes, and that. Yeah. Anything else? Yes. Oh, Julie, I'll come back.
Legislation, enforcing policy, and legislation to help put teeth or force into some of these ordinances governing what goes on in our neighborhoods related to property ownership, and things like that. Because a lot of time there's laws on the book, but it might take a year for you to get an absentee landlord to court, or even get them to get them to realize that their property is a nuisance in your neighborhood. So trying to get maybe legislators to put teeth into those ordinances that control that, so that those absentee property owners really feel it in the pocketbook. Because I don't know what the dollar amounts are for those kind of situations. But if it's $25 and I live in New York, that's nothing for me. So I can go a whole year, $25 fines, and just write a check at the end of the year. But if you can get their attention right off the bat when the first incident happened, then maybe that would help with some solutions. I don't know where you would put legislation or. Okay.
You telling me to hold it?
No.
Okay. I'm going back to money. So as like each and every one of us leave here today, you all figuring out, or if you already know who your state representative is, or if you need to reach out to your alderperson, having them explain to you all and do participatory budgeting. Because while the city of St. Louis has its own city operating budget, $500 million, and then $400 million in RAM settlement, 800 million split between city and county, the state also voted on a $47 billion state operating budget. And so those funds can be used at a local level. So figuring out what that budget looks like and how you can use it and tap into it.
I think that one thing that we could definitely do, I heard a lot of people talking about grass and derelict properties and things of this nature. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but the city contracts with contractors to cut grass, to do tuck pointing, so on and so forth. However, what my point is that we need to organize our neighborhood associations as LLCs, since we are the ones that are concerned, and then we can hire our youth to do the tuck pointing, to cut the grass, so on and so forth. Therefore, we can maintain our communities.
So you thinking creatively, using, if Andrea, if you don't mind, we're gonna call out actors in this section of like who could help do these items. So neighborhood associations on that. So yeah, you want to get deep. Let's do it. Covenant Blue Grand Center neighborhood associations. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Aunties, uncles, it would start here as the impetus, but we all have family members that live in other neighborhoods. And once we do it here, they don't have to wait on us to be successful. We give them the plan and insist that they do it in their neighborhoods, because we're talking about the entire North St. Louis for real. We're not just talking about pockets. We talked about, she spoke about silos earlier. So organizing your neighborhood association as, I get long-winded. Organize your neighborhood association as a nonprofit. And therefore you can contract with the city to cut grass. So if your neighborhood is just 10 blocks and 8 of those blocks are vacant lots, now you've got the wherewithal to take the youth off the street having nothing to do, giving them something to do, which causes them to appreciate their community. Property values are going up. The list goes on as far as the benefits of this. And it's very simple and very easy to do.
All right, Sarge on that. Sarge is up. All right, Sarge, you want to put Sarge up there? We're gonna call it. Sarge is mowing our lawns. I'm gonna call this out later. So.
Well, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Bay said, Collins Bay said. It was something that we put on the board about partnership with SLDC or LRA to have them free up some of that land bank. These are things that we can do now. So as I stated in a group, older people have really 2 jobs: to legislate laws and to be a good steward of tax dollars. That's the same with me as a state representative, and the same with our federal person. Be a good steward of tax dollars no matter what level it is on. And so if we know that forestry has over 23,000 properties that are vacant, that they are charged with cutting, and if we know that this is real, that they only have 60 workers, Last year they had 70 something, now they got 60 something. Well, they had a little bit over 70 last year, but if we know that they have that many workers with over 23,000 properties, what is the solution to lifting up some of those properties and getting it off their shoulders? So one thing that I asked, and I said, well, how about we kind of implement something like the dollar housing program that was through legislation. It didn't really go anywhere because people had $1, but they didn't have money to fix up the homes. So it's easier to maintain vacant lots. You know, you can take a lawnmower and just cut the vacant lot. So why don't we implement something like a dollar lot program for people who have active block units? Now we're empowering people to have block units because blocks make up neighborhoods, neighborhoods make up wards, wards make up districts, districts make up senatorial districts. Now I'm going through the whole chain of government. So now you see how government works. And so if we implemented a program like that, reach out to our alder people, whoever it is. It could be Jesse Todd or whoever, Gwendolyn Evans, whoever the alder people you want to reach out to, and ask them, can you legislate this into law? And let's take off some of the load off of forestry. Now we're putting property into the hands of block units and everyday regular people that can now maintain it. They may want to put an urban farm. We got money for urban farming at the state level. They may want to put a pocket playground. We got money for pocket playgrounds. We got money for nonprofit organizations. You see the $37 million grant proposal that has already came out for North City businesses and nonprofits. Let's actually tap into that, but figure out the ways that we can tap into it. And so that was the solution that I had. And now it would have to work with SLDC, work with Federation of Block Units, with the Urban League, because they do exist. With Farrakhan as the executive director for Federation of Block Units. And then just figuring out what block units actually exist and can they maintain this lot. Now, I believe that people, if they come together on one block, they can maintain one lot. Of course, they can maintain 2 lots. So that would be a suggestion too. That's something that we can do now.
Right.
That's a proposal that we can submit now to Board of Aldermen.
Say, add the Board of Aldermen. All. To get it done. Yeah, yeah. So I think this is the thing. Like, so we talk about these solutions. Let's start thinking. List up who else in this of actors, folks to be, to take these steps and where. Yes, Board of BOA. You good? Okay. Other actors on this, Angie.
Okay, I'm gonna be an actress. Okay. I'm looking for, communication really keeps blaring at me. And I would love to be on a team with individuals who can put a website together, who's very computer savvy. I want to be on that team. Communication is very important here. We do need to put out the information that we need to know about. We don't need to know about things at the last minute because that's how we always get left behind. So I'm on that team, communication.
Website design team, or on that. We'll get to these commitments and
Well, I'm interested in the 501(c) helping the neighborhood association, because our association does have a 501(c). So if we can tap in on resources to be able to pay to help our neighborhood, you know, I'm interested.
right. Here you go.
One of the other things I think we have is we have an abundance of schools, big schools like WashU and SLU, which we've already talked about as like their role in this, but what they come with are students, and students provide power in some capacity, whether that's this sort of working power, horsepower, or thought partnership. And so I think really leveraging and engaging with students and thinking about how do we capture these things as volunteer opportunities and opportunities for engagement in community so that we get more buy-in from those larger institutions.
Student volunteers. Tasha?
I was going to say I could play a role in youth outreach and like bringing together youth who see the problems in their community and actually want to get their voice heard and help out around the community by picking up trash and things like that.
Thank you. All right, making my way. Oh, Julie.
I just want to piggyback off of what you said about universities. Like, I know the Brown School, they have a community economic development program. And I acted as a mentor for 2 semesters there. I'm a Brown graduate, but they reached out to me, but they have been actively coming to meetings in our neighborhood, and we get, volunteers from the schools of social work. If you reach out to the schools of social work, or if they have a community economic development class, if you reach out to those people, they're really willing to come into your neighborhood and to let the students get the experience, because a lot of times these students are going to be the ones that are making decisions about neighborhoods, about funding. And if they could get a grassroots level experience and meet the people in the neighborhoods, it's an opportunity for the universities and the community to meet, because they're always coming in telling you how to spend your money, what to do with the money. But this gives you, I think, an opportunity to express to them your frustrations that you've had with them coming in and telling you what to do, and how to actually bridge into a community like ours. And it's really been helpful in a way to what we're trying to do over with our little group. They've been very supportive. Another thing that you have to look at sometimes is outside of your community. We actually got a national grant for $100,000 just to build capacity for our organization. So sometimes you can't, if you can't find it here, then look outside of here. Use, I say, not your imagination, but think outside of the box, because everybody in every organization, especially with nonprofits, they're all, like Judith said, everybody is vying for the same dollar bill. And if you don't collaborate and pull your strengths together and say, Vander, Covenant Blue, and Enright, whatever, those 7 neighborhoods, we're collaborating to apply for maybe a $50 million federal grant. This is what each one of us brings. But those universities really are a source to start breaking down some of these barriers and getting our voices heard.
Thank you. All right. Thinking these solutions, the solutions that we've seen on the walls, who are the actors, who are the folks that can provide the support either to implement it now, to get the money, to get the relationships, build the accountability on that?
Yeah, I think Representative Collins and I were in a same LRA hearing over 3 parcels being bought in the 18th Ward. And we had to sit and listen to each one of these applications, and LRA give their verdict on whether they were going to sell it or what needed to happen. What I found is that they're hanging on to this and they don't really want to seem to give it up. So why are you hanging on to it then? What's the grand master plan? Is that a separate thing that only you in the back room get to see and everybody else is made to jump through hoops? They should be made to answer to the taxpayers. They work for us. We don't work for them. And that's been a problem in government. They've gotten the role reversed around. You work for us. Your paycheck comes out of my wallet. That's where it needs to happen at. And they need to be reminded. And if they can't get with the program, remove them from office. LRA is under review right now. There were a lot of good plans that came up in that meeting that she and I were both in, and they got rejected. And for no real specific reason, just rejected. And so then they dumped their problem back on forestry, who is already underwater as it is. And then there's more problems cropping up that can't be dealt with. And there it is. So we need to start going through the list of who the problem organizations and government officials are, and they need to be addressed at the ballot box or by firing.
So we're gonna say LRA Accountability Committee. Is that what actor that we're creating on the? All right.
Thank you. I would just want to mention one more thing about LRA. Unfortunately, we have 3 lots that are owned by LRA that we are repurposing into lovely, lovely green space. Just found out the other day that there's rubble underneath the soil. So what we look at is not always perceived as easy, because when the buildings were imploded and torn down, they dumped it inside the center. Supposedly it's inside the center, but on our lots, it's all over the lot. So we can't even drill down in there to do anything. So now my engineers have to go and figure out how much rubble there is, and the cost of that is insurmountable. And it is all over North St. Louis.
Is there an actor you want to call out on that or around on availability? Judith, is there an actor that you want to call in terms around of finding solution around that? Do we need more engineers? Do we need?
Build on it. I mean, that stuff's just going to stay just like it is.
I go and hand it.
And we're back to LRA again. Part of the hypocrisy, if you needed to tear your house down on your lot to build a new one, do you think that you get away with just simply shoving it into the ground? But apparently the government operates on a different set of rules than everybody else. Now, I'm sure they probably do a neater job in the South City. Matter of fact, they tore the house down next door to me in Benton Park, and they did a very neat, tidy job because that became my yard. But apparently when we head north, we just do out however it is that we can make it look pretty and bury the problem underneath.
Do we know who's the department who does demolition of housing, or like the building division? Can you put the building division up here as? Go on.
Where we often feel with many of the things that we complain about is we don't understand the process. Now, if there are no plans for the homes on Palm between, let's say, Geraldine and Kings Highway, they're all vacant. There are no plans. The city is going to take the lowest bid, and the lowest bid is the person that's going to knock the building down and just throw it all in the basement and then cover it up. But if there are plans for the community, then they're going to take the bid, the lowest bid that is going to remove the dirt and make it possible to redevelop the land. So it comes back to having a plan in place for your community. So when they do come in to demolish these properties, they have to do it in accordance with that plan. Otherwise, they do what they want to do. There's a difference between how we perceive government works and how government actually works. Again, Central West End is the best example. Central West End and the Grove are great examples of how this works. The residents control what decisions are made. We believe that the politicians control what decisions are made, and they do as long as we are silent, as long as we are unorganized, as long as we don't have any form of presence. Today, we have a presence. How effective that presence is how we understand how to use the information we're going to come up with. Not just coming up with the information and sharing it, because all of us don't understand it in its proper context. So we have to understand how to use that information. Eminent domain. A neighborhood association has the right of eminent domain over any corporation when it comes to property within them. But have you ever heard of any neighborhood association or block unit using eminent domain to protect the property within its boundaries? You haven't.
Not until today.
Is it possible? Yes, yes, it is. But you have to fight the bully back. I was just in a meeting today where alderperson had the audacity to tell a young lady who was opening an in-home daycare center that, in so many words, she said she's the end all be all of whether or not she gets approved. She told her, I'm gonna fight you tooth and nail with everything I've got. Well, the only thing you have is your name and title as an alderperson. The other people that live within this 500-foot radius determine whether or not that daycare gets open. But those people were led to believe that, well, whatever the alderperson says, that's what it's going to be. That's not the truth. That's the furthest thing from the truth. So we have to understand the process to accomplishing our goals. Not just writing the goal out, not just having the goal, but the process to accomplishing that goal. This plan came out 20 years ago. If this plan came out 20 years ago, there should have been a 15-year-old involved, a 20-year-old involved, and a 30-year-old involved, along with those of us that were 40 when this plan came out. Why? Because they are the ones that are going to have to sustain it and make it perpetual. And until we begin to function on that level, we're going to always have these meetings 20 years later talking about what we should have, could have done.
Great. So I appreciate this framing of understanding the process, also making sure that the elected officials understand the process, that this is the community power, and this is the process in that. I'm going to give it two more, if I'm missing two more, and I'm coming.
Another way that we can attack this kind of stuff is start applying for these boards and commissions with the city and the state. If you go to the boards and commissions website, you will see people who have been in it, who are in terms that have expired and are still on these boards. You might have to get your alderman or your state rep or your senator to represent you for some of these boards and commissions. But if we're not at the table on that level, it's just like he said, we're going to continue to be in this cycle of doing the same thing with nobody to step up and move forward. Sometimes you can get on these boards and commissions if you're interested in economic development or real estate. I mean, just go on that website and look at those boards and commissions and say, maybe I want to get on that. Because a lot of times we're not at the table on that level. And the more we get on that level, I remember, I think the mayor was actually begging people in the city of St. Louis to fill these vacancies on these boards and commissions. And it's a lot of vacancies, just like it's job vacancies. There are boards and commissions vacancies too. And that's another way that you will be at the table, present, and making your viewpoint and your voice heard.
All right, great. So with this, we're understanding kind of here, again, where is the solution? Who are the folks that are going to help us do the solutions, get this done? That is outside of this room, inside this room on this. I got to check my time. Yeah, we're gonna go earlier on that. What am I missing? What am I?
Voice the players that should be on that to begin with.
So in addition, community for Covenant Blue, we have Covenant Blue, Vandeventer, Community Development Corp. Will you add them on? Deaconess Foundation as well. And SLACO. Yeah, will you add those three up there? Thank you. Now we're going to turn over to Bethany as we think about our next steps and what is the commitments that we all are looking at today around this solution. So if you give it, Bethany, will you join us when you are ready?
Okay, you've taken a card, you've passed it down. For those that don't know me or my face yet, please let me do introductions. I'm really happy to be the new president and CEO of Deaconess Foundation. Okay, extra. Oh, thank you for the claps. Thank you for the claps and the hey heys. I appreciate you. So happy to be with you and excited to be here. You did, I know, right? Because I am one. I know. I'm so grateful for that. So what we're doing right now, I paid attention. That's what I do, to all that you've said and all that you have committed to. I'm so glad you came back because I'm going to need you, Mr. DJ. Okay, so what we're going to need is those cards are your commitment cards. Okay, you're going to not only write down, because your brain, when you write something on a card, your brain considers it to be truth. It remembers it differently than if you verbally say it. It is, for all intents and purposes, covenant. Covenant is a much deeper word than promise. It is a much deeper word than contract. I'm gonna tell you what my daddy said. You ready? Say it with me if you trust me that much. Say it with me. If a man's word is no good, he's no good. And that's what my daddy say. So that means that when we make a commitment, we have to follow through with our word, right? We have to keep our word. So on this card, that's going to be community property. Okay. On the first side, I want you to put the most important thing that you have, which is your name. Put your name on one side of the card, probably the one without lines. Put your name, because your name means something. Your name is who you are. Your name is what represents you. Your name is generational, in fact. It's a lot to your name. So put your name on that card. That's your first commitment. It's for people to know that it's not anonymous, that you're so audacious in your commitments, you'll put your name. Anybody else need a card? Okay. Put your name on the card. All right. When you finish that up, just kind of let me see you. Put your little finger up so I know how much more time we need. Okay, great. Now, we're going to have some thinking music. Cue up the DJ, so that when I tell you the next 3 things of commitment layers, I want you to think about, you'll have maybe 4 minutes to think about it, especially for my introverts, right? To think about your commitments. The first level of commitment is the most important, because if we fight and we fight and we fight and you're exhausted and we lose you, we don't win. That's not a win for neighborhood, for community, for generation, for commitments. If you fight so hard and are so exhausted by yourself, we lose you. So the first commitment, what will be your commitment to your own well-being? What will be the commitment to your own well-being? Okay. Commitment to self. Raise your hands if you're almost there with finishing your commitment to self. Thank you. Now, second commitment. What will be your commitment to engaging fellow residents? What is your commitment to engaging someone not in this room? My word is evangelism. Some other people have other words. One, win, one. We spread the word. How will you commit to spreading the word? Think about also your electeds and how you may want to connect with electeds who represent you. Ready for more music? Thank you, sir. Commitment, commitment, commitment. Let me know with your fingers up when you have completed that commitment. We need a couple more minutes, so I'll let you, okay? Let you all finish those commitments. Just let me see you when your fingers go up. All right. I see Sarge putting a period on it. We have a third commitment. I caught you. Third commitment, very critical level, is what do you commit from the actions that you heard today, from the priorities that you heard today, frankly, from what resonated in your spirit, what you are purposed to get done in the next 84 days. In the next 84 days. Where'd I get that from? Because our next meeting is 84 days from today. Okay. So in the next 84 days, what is your commitment? Remember what my daddy said. I didn't say it, but remember what my daddy said. What are the actions or one action that you can take and drive? You feel purpose. You feel like it resonates with you. I heard you, Miss Angie. I heard others of you about communication, Miss Judith, right? What is your action that you commit to taking within the next 84 days? Let's take 60 seconds. When you have made that commitment, signify by nodding your head to the beat so I know that you feel the music like me. That's cute. This side of the room's like, I want to be cute with it. So they're just like left and right. That's cute. That's real cute, y'all. Very good. Anybody else done? Don't be embarrassed to nod your head. Come on. There's a little Afrocentric in all of us. We have rhythm, yes. Now, here's the most important part of commitments. In order to go through with commitments, they get really hard, and 84 days turns into like 2 and 2 seconds. So who or what is going to be your inspiration? Who or what is going to be your inspiration to remind you of the commitment that you made today so that you keep it? Who or what is going to be your inspiration? It can be a name, it can be a quote. There's a face of a young person that is in my mind when I keep my word. So who is your inspiration? What will be your inspiration to keep your commitment over the next 84 days to get it done, whatever you promised? That'll work. Let's crowdsource inspiration. I like to hear from you out of all the things in your commitment. Let's just go around the room, anyone that will volunteer. Tell me your source of inspiration when you think about what keeps you in your North Star in 84 days to get it done, what you wrote on your paper. I like your eyes, so I'm gonna just call on you. That's your source of inspiration. What is your name? Tyshawn is inspiration. Tyshawn, what's inspiration for you? Yeah. little cousins because they're the future of the community that we live in. Thank you, Tyshawn. Who you want to throw it to? Who looks appealing, compelling to you? Your squad is your inspiration to get it done over the next 84. Thank you. Thank you. Caitlin, hi. Charlie and Henry, her little boys are her source of inspiration. I'm seeing a theme here. David, what you got? Yeah. Yeah. Jen, what are you thinking? Audrey, you are the source of inspiration because you are going to hold her accountable. Amen. Okay. What do we have from the back row of the three brown people I see? What are your sources of inspiration? Yeah, the future and your values. Name one value, Mr. Byron, for me. Yeah, name one value. It's a beautiful value. Anything else, Sergeant? I know you got something to say. Yes. Yes. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Consistent. And consistent. It's a beautiful exchange. Thank you so much. Did you have anything that you wanted to share? Mm-hmm. Yes. Hope inspires us. Yes, and sense of responsibility. This beautiful side of the room. Tell me about commitments or tell me about your inspiration, Ms. Judith. What inspires you? AmeriCorps people will have the assignment. They will be on assignment on communications because of the enlightenment of today. You had to clap on that one. I felt that one. That's amazing. Thank you, Ms. Chu. Beautiful commitment. I'm giving you two opportunities. Did you have anything you wanted to add? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for extending that hope. You all holding on is one of the reasons I think I got to be called this many years into this position, standing in front of you. So I appreciate your hope. Brings me into this space. I don't want to leave out more inspiration. Any other volunteers for inspiration? Miss Julia, you look like you want to say something over them eyes. To continue to encourage the youth. Did you hear that? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Generational. Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, well said. Well said. Any other sources of inspiration before we close this portion of our commitment? Ah, yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Miss Cynthia. That is an ongoing commitment, and we thank you, Miss Cynthia, and those that crowd around her as well. Anything from this side? Anything from the back? Commitments? Yes. Kina is inspiration. Okay. Black neighborhoods. Miss Angie, I'm just looking. So we are in implementation mode. Isn't that exciting? We are at the doing place. To your point, we're at the doing. And if you need to be authorized, you just take out your proverbial mirror and you look at yourself and you say green light, and there's your authorization. It happened, right? So we really are in implementation, and that's amazing. I'm gonna ask if one of our young people would take this larger bucket for me. Thank you. You're gonna work your way around to the middle. I'm gonna work my way this way. And what we're gonna ask you to do is to select a stone. Select one that looks interesting to you, one that seems to speak to you for some reason. You're not even quite sure why, but you like it. I'm gonna take a stone. One that appeals to you. Gonna take a stone, Miss Cynthia. Something about it just kind of grabs you. Would you like a stone, sir? I love it. Some of us are picky about which one we get. Me too. I was the same way. Select a stone. As we wait, I want you to look at that stone. You know, there's life force. Oh, you have one. Oh, good job. Okay. There's life force in stones, and different colors and different textures mean things to people. I went to Sedona and they swore the amethyst did a certain X, Y, and Z. Did you take one too? I picked one that was interesting to me. And I want to read you a story because this is part of our commitment. I want you to think about that commitment that you made on your card. I want you to read it again. We're going to ask you to pass those forward, but before we do, take a picture of it, because that is your commitment for the next 84 days, because we are in implementation now. This is what implementation looks like. This is the doing part. We are the hope of the generations who were in the early 2000s. We heard them say they've been waiting on implementation, and that is today. That is today. The day has come. That is today. That's what this is about, right? Take the picture of your card, pass those cards over to your left or your other left, whatever makes the passing of the cards work, right? We're going to collect those up. Those commitments become public record, right? And while you're doing that, you gave something to the work, and now we want to gift something back to you, which is this stone, okay? I want to read from an ancient text. Some of you may be familiar with this story. Thank you. And there in the ancient city, Joshua set up 12 huge stones. And with these 12 huge stones, they had taken these stones from the Jordan River. Anybody know what the Jordan River represented? The Jordan River. People got washed in the river Jordan. It was symbolic of deliverance and crossing over from promise to implementation. People are nodding their heads, right? The Jordan symbolized what was impossible to happen in the story. What had happened was there were people who were on a journey together, ancient times. And on this journey, yeah, they had been through Egypt, but they had this promise, and it took them way longer than what it should have. It took them 40 years to get what would have been 4 days' journey. And in that story, the first time that they walked around in circles, the next generation came, and the next generation, through the leadership of Caleb and Joshua, they said, this time around, we're going to take stones out of the Jordan. We're going to set them up, 12 of those stones, and we're going to build a monument, because the impossible happened in that place. And the impossible that happened in that place is with that original promise that didn't seem like it would come to you all's word. Fruition. I heard fruition 4 times. It came to pass on the second generation's watch. And they needed to commemorate it. They needed to remind each other. They needed a symbol, a visual symbol, because we're visual people. And here's the thing about humans, we forget easily. We forget, don't we? We forget way too easy. And so their custom was, they said, hey, go take 12 stones and set them up, because here was the most important part. Joshua said, in the future, when your children ask their fathers, what is the meaning of these stones? You will be able to tell them the story of how they made it over in an impossible situation. The Jordan flooded so severely that humans should not have been able to cross over it. But because of the will of the people and the will of the Spirit met, did you catch that? Because the will of the people and the will of the Spirit met, the flooded water succumbed to the people and it dried up, and the people crossed over on dry land. And it was impossible, except it happened. So these stones, take a look at your stone, is our gift to you today to remind you and me, as I put it in my pocket, that the impossible is possible because you are part of the vision. And that it is a promise to you that what has been impossible before is possible because the will of the Spirit and the will of the people have met. Take in a deep breath as you hold your stone. Exhale as you hold your stone. It is symbolic, but you have a whole lot of power in your hands, and you can put it in this stone. And you can find inspiration from this stone. It may mean a whole bunch of things to you in this stone. Here's a couple as you hold that stone, and your eyes can be closed if you so choose. The stone symbolizes remembering your commitment. The stone symbolizes, ready for this one, rolling away old defeats. I want you to hear that because this room needs to be healed from that. This stone symbolizes, say it out loud because it means something different to your spirit. Rolling away old defeats. This stone is a memory of places and experiences. This stone is a memory of people you love and people you never met yet that because you said yes today are going to benefit from your yes. This stone is also a memorial where the basis of the sharing of your faith and your hope with your children. That's what the original intent was. And so now this stone has a whole lot of power and property to it. It's going to remind you of all the commitments in 84 days, say 84 days, that we are going to do within ourselves. So that commitment to us first, that commitment to our fellow village and citizenry, that commitment that we walk out of this room, it's on the paper now. If a person's word is no good, here we go. And you're going to remember your inspiration. And this next 84 days is going to be good because now we're in implementation. Do you feel it? I know, I see you floating over there, Sarge, right? So I want to thank you in advance for all of the commitments that we saw, for the way with which you are now inspired and encouraged. May grace and peace go with you. May spirit be with you. May you feel inspired by this room. Thank you so much for my ability to contribute to today's agenda.
Thank you, Bethany. Taking my stone, I am also providing closing for us on this. One, want to thank you all for being here. Very excited about this opportunity and this work. And also, as we noted in the that Kathy noted on the beginning, this is a long-term work, right? That this isn't just a one meeting. This has not just been one meeting, and we're going to continue on that. So I want to set up the next things around accountability and steps that we're committing to, and that we hope that you guys can continue as well. So as you know, may not know, the Deaconess Foundation has committed to continuing to, for the next 2 years in this pilot program, continuing to build the infrastructure and the scaffolding for these assemblies, right? And so that we can continue to invest in this as a model for learning for ourselves, as learning for the rest of the community, learning for other work about how do we develop more community control in that. So in our commitments and commitments that I have on my card for the foundation is that we continue to, in a planning team and an assessment, the planning team that has been helped to put together all of this with Freedom Arts as well as your neighbors to review, put together notes, documentations, videos, the commitments on this to make sure that we get this out to you, to the larger networks, so that we know that we're held accountable and publicly accountable to the next steps. Also, in terms of next steps in the planning that you'll see on your agenda, there is 3 dates on here. There are 3 signposts, but these are not the only signposts or the markers along the road, and they are up to all of us in our commitments in the next 84 days to to fill in the rest of those mile markers. So the first thing that I want to call your attention to is on July 6th, Wednesday, July 6th, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. We are going to have an evaluation of this meeting, right? So there's a number of people that helped put together this, that put together the tables, provided the art, provided the thinking of how do we have this. We want to have an evaluation, a public evaluation of that, of saying what worked well for this meeting, what didn't work well, what should we never speak of again for this meeting, right? And we invite you all to join us in that, to think through that, the evaluation, because we only learn together to make sure that everything works the way that it needs to for more community control. Then the next thing is, and next meeting that we have is September 17th, Saturday, September 17th, 84 days, to do another People's Assembly, to host another this, where specifically the conversation is, okay, what did we do, right? Where is our accountability? What did we do? What didn't we do? What do we have troubles on? What do we have challenges? What do we have successes? And what else do we still need to do? How do we continue to move towards this board of solutions and away from the board of challenges, right? So that's the next thing. And then continue to call out for more accountability, continue to call out for more community control, and then doing another People's Assembly in December 10th at the close of the year, to see where capstone and where we are at the end of this year for moving forward to our priorities, moving forward to our solutions. So like I said, others have said today, this is not the last meeting. This is not the last time. Please keep us, make sure that you've signed in out there if you haven't, so that you can get on the mailing list, so that we can, and please keep us updated about as other events, other convenings, other gatherings that help move this work forward, because we can't do it alone, and we won't do it alone on that. Taking a breath. That's needed. With that, this concludes our formal agenda on this assembly. We have dinner out in the pre-function space. We hope that you all will partake, join us in that. You can eat in here, you can eat in the boardroom, in the classroom, in the hall, wherever you need. We wanted to give this time so that we could break bread together, have those parking lot conversations with food, and be in community in terms of next steps and conversations. So I appreciate you all. Thank you for your time.